Welcome, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. I know, Attila, you're here too. Do you want to say anything before we get started?
I'm an outdoor recreation planner for the Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program and based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Good morning or afternoon.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Attila. Yeah, and so I think I know most of you, but if I don't know you, I'm the CEO and founder of Greenplay, and I'm also the director of the Healthy Communities Research Group and one of the co-founders for GP Red. To get started, we were kind of talking with the program committee about what did we want to talk about this year. And we're always looking at themes for the think tank. And one of the first things I did is I kind of went back and thought, okay, I've been attending a lot of conferences, like I'm sure a lot of you have, and we pay close attention to national trends. We actually Becky Dunlap, aside from her role here as Zoom Queen, actually is she does the majority of our trends research for Greenplay, and so she's working on a lot of different projects, and we have other staff that are involved with that also. But we try to pay close attention to what's happening around the country and around the world, so that we can really have a good handle on what's going on. We'll look back in 2016, the Outdoor Industry Association, which is, we get a lot of our information from them, posted these as their trends. And there's some recent stuff, but I thought this was kind of interesting. So back in 2016, last 4 years, we really thought that these 5 things were the things that were going to be there's a whole lot of trends going on, but the big ones are, obviously, all of you know that we have this big bubble right now with the aging baby boomers and then also the millennials. And so really kind of the effects that these different age groups are having on trends in outdoor recreation and in recreation overall. I know, as we talked yesterday with Sylvie's conversation, we really are becoming more of an urban culture in the United States, and in the prediction that will be at least 82% urban by 2020 was in one of the predictions. Obviously, we've all been paying close attention and aware of the fact that the obesity trend continues. In 2016, the prediction that was that more than 42% would be overweight or obese in the United States. And actually, we have surpassed that trend. I looked at the current CDC numbers this morning, and unfortunately, adults continue to be above that curve. We've made some inroads with youth, but that we continue to have a challenge with overweight and obesity in the United States. This number 4 I'll come back to. Number 5, the idea of Hispanic and Latino growth. What we are just seeing a constant diversification. So these are all true. All of these predictions from 2016 were true. The big one though, COVID-19. None of us had any idea that trend and how it was going to focus on us. And so the big trend that I wanted to hit first relative to what we're doing, definitely a heightened attention to health, but really this focus on how we can use recreation and outdoor recreation in particular as a preventive health mechanism. We know that outdoor recreation in particular, having access to nature, having access to outdoor spaces, it has been proven in the research. So it's no longer a question of whether or not it's good for us. We have research, we have tons and tons of data. And if you need information about that, we've got a lot of researchers who are participating in the think tank who are working in this realm. But just to recognize, whether it's, access to the flora, different ecosystems. Some of us are water people, some of us are really like the forest, some people really like stone. Whatever your preferred affiliation or affinity to, whatever type of plant life or environment that you get your recreation and body, mind, and spirit from, there's even ionic responses, there's biochemical responses that we get from just being in the environments that are good for us and affect us. And so being around plants and animals and open spaces, we know that we can reduce our stress and increase our focus, our attention. This idea of when we're stressed, we spend a lot of time in the psychology field, we call it ruminating. And when we're in nature, the idea of ruminating on negative thoughts tends to go away, and we tend to become more present in nature. And so having access to open spaces, and then this other piece about places to be physically active, to be out with people. And this, I don't think it's ever been more crucial than it is right now. And so between these 3 things, having access to the environment, the open spaces, and access to places where people can gather safely, is more crucial now than ever. In the work, then the research shows that some people call them social determinants of health, or in our research around parks and recreation, I looked at what can we modify. So what can we do with Parks and Recreation? And these top factors on the left-hand side, we can affect physical activity. We actually have a very strong effect on nutrition. And even when we're talking about outdoor recreation, having places for people to grow their own gardens and be outdoors. The idea of places to gather safely. Right now, we're talking a lot about using the term physical distancing rather than social distancing, where people can be together but yet still have plenty of room to be apart. And then this place of, the perceptions of safety, a big trend in towards helping make sure that people from all walks of life and all different types of culture feel safe. And in providing outdoor recreation, parks and recreation, through our educational and our entry-level programs, we can really help affect people's life by introducing them to the areas where we are. And this whole idea of access to nature that we've already spent so much time on, but it's just crucial. And the big trend, though, is how to look at this as a system, whether we're looking at blue infrastructure or green infrastructure and having that systems approach. And so I just want to kind of set that stage as the kind of a first mega trend. Right now, we as preventive public health providers is probably the biggest thing out there, and it's really helping us become essential in the realm that we live in and in our communities. And through that, we're doing a lot through technology. I want to turn it over to Attila to talk about this.
Well, the technology trends seem to be focused on massive data collection efforts and tailoring them to site-specific or applications. And I want to share a couple of examples of what we're seeing and what we're working on. And first two projects are both things that the Park Service was engaged with. Social media analytics, trying to figure out if a gazillion pictures can help us determine correlations with visitation. And so public land managers often lack information on the spatial and temporal extent of rec activities. So could social media be a promising source of data to fill information gaps about where people go and how long they're there? A team led by University of Washington studied that recreational use is positively correlated with social media activity. The findings indicated that social media data substantially improved visitor estimates at unmonitored sites. And visitation estimates were further improved when models were parameterized with on-site counts. And if we know more about the content, about the words and images that can help us gain insights to visitor numbers, experiences, activities, and satisfaction, as well as characteristics of the visitors themselves. This can be very valuable as we look to make sure our parks and rec destinations and facilities are serving all audiences. And as we dig into that data further, we can also help determine on maybe which user groups through the demographic data, which user groups aren't accessing our sites, and do we need to change promotion or programming or policies or something else to get those audiences into our sites. Level of service analysis is all over the place. Both GP Red and Green Play are involved in this analysis, but GIS, or Geographic Information Systems, is exploding with level of service analysis. In this example, this is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where the Wilderness Society, through their Urban to Wild campaign, did a transit to parks study in the city, how bus routes could better serve and better connect vulnerable populations to Albuquerque parks and open space. And if you do know the city, you know that right through the center is the Rio Grande State Park. So lots of open space opportunities. This vulnerable population data dump, and there's a gazillion colors on this map, but shows that we looked at socio-demographic categories of people of color, household income, seniors, youth, unemployment, education, attainment. We looked at the environmental categories of respiratory hazards, proximity to traffic, ozone concentration, tree canopy, floodplains, no nearby access to parks, probably through some of the CDC data. And then the health category of lack of health insurance, adult obesity, childhood obesity, and on and on. So through that data, we kind of confirmed what we already knew, was that the Southwest Mesa and the South Valley of the city lack opportunity, lack transit, lack parks, and those folks can't even get to other parks. Another technology that's more user-oriented these days is all the numerous user acts. apps. So Colorado Trail Explorer is one example that helps users find out where trails are, helps you find elevation profile, and actually kind of does nice tours of some of the trails as well. There's dozens of these. Mountain Bike Trail Network, Park RX America, all have great data they're collecting for users. But there's information, are they getting to the users? We still need to test that. And then we also are learning that some of this data is still missing information on safety, and some of those things we can modify. Is not clear whether that data is being collected on the perception of safety, the amenities, or who's using those facilities in the depths. And from technology, we know that the Bureau of Economic Analysis shows that outdoor economy accounts for 2.2% of the gross domestic product. And we're seeing more collaboration now between public land managers and outdoor industry, including retailers, guide services, manufacturers, and concessions. An example of this is a program, Outdoor Industry Leadership Certificate at Oregon State University. Their Outdoor Recreation Economy Initiative is bringing together all of the different land managers and the concessionaires to talk about how we work better together, how we learn from each other. And then as far as economic values, the New Mexico Office of Outdoor Recreation was the first in the country to invest in an equity fund that provides youth access to outdoor development. So we have these ideas going on. 84 communities applied for youth access to outdoor funding in New Mexico. And then also technology trends, or I'm sorry, the economic value trends also focusing on things like green infrastructure. So there is more money out there for parks and recreation development, thinking about how you can apply for green infrastructure funding through EPA, FEMA, HUD. EPA has their Sustainable Communities Greening America program, environmental friendly communities and neighborhoods, innovative green infrastructure and sustainable design. That's access to nature. EPA's 5-star urban waters restoration grant program, capacity to providing modest assistance to river, wetland, riparian. Again, access to nature, the HUD Sustainable Communities program, and then FEMA pre-disaster mitigation program, which also helps us think about climate resiliency, climate change, and natural hazard mitigation program, all things parks and recreation should be thinking about.
The last trend that we want to hit before we go into our small group discussions is really to really recognize that right now we are in this place where we have a very, very strong opportunity to honor diversity and equity. And so we are incorporating that into every single project that we have, whether we're doing in Tulsa right now, we're just starting an equity analysis project where we're using artificial intelligence, the technology, to be able to look at how people from different under-resourced communities versus communities that are more highly resourced, how they're using parks, especially during the time of COVID. I put up this piece here with Carolyn Finney. I was blessed to have Dr. Myron Floyd bring her into a topic right when I first started my PhD program at NC State. And this whole idea of it's not enough to invite people to the table. You also have to have them help them set the menu and prepare the meal. And I think we are at a place right now recognizing the changing diversity in our culture, and that the whole questions about how can we get our communities more involved? How can we have representative planning, especially in outdoor recreation? How can we learn about the culture, cultural background, and honor that while we invite people into these areas, especially in the outdoors, that are really, really healthy? And so these questions that I put down here at the bottom from Youth Outside, Kim Bailey is the executive director there, and the whole idea is, what if we return from this pandemic with a deeper understanding? What would it look like? And instead of us in this crisis, if we start to be able to move forward and towards equity faster and make it a higher priority. So these are just some ideas that we're hoping to think in terms of major trends. Some of the ways that we're addressing those are through using really increased mobile optimized engagement. We call it MO at Greenplay. But the idea that all of our projects have this feature now, because we know that 85% of Americans have access to a smartphone. And so we're actually on all of our projects seeing much higher inclusion and integration of people from previously under-resourced populations that would not come to public meetings. Now, because people can participate with a smartphone from their couch, they have a much stronger voice, and so we really want to break that in.